Ladies and gentlemen, this is TVP World. You're watching another edition of Break the Fake, where we debunk fake news and combat false narratives. I'm your host, Benjamin Lee, and let's get rolling. Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orbán is back with his favorite hobby, redrawing Ukraine. Now this time he claimed the country will be divided into three zones: Russian, demilitarized, and Western. Then without blinking, he added that Ukraine's collapse is not in Budapest's interest. So he's against Ukraine falling apart, but already picked out how the pieces should be labeled. I don't know, kinda sus. And to make it sound official, Orbán claimed Europe has recognized this. Which part of Europe exactly? Because unless Europe now means Orbán and his bartender that he's venting to, no one else seemed to have gotten the memo.
Ma elegánsan az európaiak biztonsági garanciákról beszélnek, de a biztonsági garancia valójában Ukrajna felosztását jelenti. Az első lépés már megtörtént, mert a nyugatiak elfogadták, hogy létezik orosz zóna. Csak az a vita, hogy a Krímen túl lesz 2 megye, 4 megye, 5 megye vagy 6 megye. De arról már nincs szó, hogy az ne létezne. Egy orosz zóna már létrejött, ez Ukrajna körülbelül 20%-át tartalmazza. Ez már a múlt, erről már nem is nagyon van vita. Amiről vita van, hogy az orosz zóna határától hány kilométerre jöjjön létre egy demilitarizált zóna. 40 kilométer, 50, 100, 200, nem tudjuk, ez most zajlik. Ez lesz a második zóna. Ukrajna felosztásának eredménye egy orosz zóna, egy demilitarizált zóna, és végül majd egy nyugati zóna, aminek a körvonalairól és állapotairól most még nem tudunk semmi biztosat mondani, de láthatjuk, hogy Ukrajna 3 zónából álló területté alakul át.
And just when you think he's done, he starts brainstorming. Buffer zone sizes, now 40, 50, maybe 200 kilometers. It's less a political vision and more of a fever dream with a ruler. If Orbán keeps drawing lines like this, someone should really take the crayons away. But here's what Orbán keeps forgetting. Ukraine isn't a spreadsheet you can just reorganize, and it sure as hell isn't his to divide. He can't imagine zones all he wants, 40 kilometers for 1,000, but Ukrainians don't seem to be keen on giving up a single inch. Russian state TV's top exorcist-in-chief, Vladimir Solovyov, has blessed us with yet another sermon from the Church of Unhinged Propaganda. Now this time, he solemnly declared that Kyiv must be destroyed because it has fallen into Satanism. And for once, even his usual studio choir of hit nodders blink in confusion. That awkward silence you heard? That was the sound of professional lunatics thinking, wait, what? Apparently, Russia is finally having its own version of the 1980s satanic panic, just 40 years late with way more ballistic missiles. Instead of blaming Pokemon, heavy metal, or Dungeons and Dragons, Solovyov wants you to believe the devil is now rocking a Ukrainian trident and plotting from Kyiv. It's not just a desperate parody at this point. And when your own fellow propagandists hesitate to go along, you know you've graduated from Kremlin Kool-Aid to full-blown political absinthe.
Киев будет разрушен.
Зачем Киев разрушать?
Потому что там находится...
Зачем Киев разрушать?
Объясню. Потому что это город, который впал в сатанизм. Город, который осквернил святыню, город, который предал свою веру, город, который предал свою историю.
Мы не знаем, сколько там праведников живет в Киеве. Мы не знаем. Поэтому не надо разрушать города. Не надо убивать людей. Не надо дальше смертей. Владимир Вольфович,
нет там праведников. Зато есть те, которые радуются каждому удару вглубь России. Зато есть те, которые каждый раз...
Такие.
Василий Ильич,
безусловно, есть такие. Я же не за всех говорю.
Вы видели где там хоть один праведник? Вы видели, что была девочка, которая вышла против сатанистов, ее забрали, посадили. А все остальные где?
Я
Помните
знаю,
вот
что...
эту девочку, да, когда вот было?
Да,
она
да.
стояла...
Я знаю, что около 10 тысяч людей сидят там просто ни за что. Как минимум ни за что. Понимаете?
Вот их мы потом освободим. А Киев сначала разрушим.
But maybe this is the natural next step for Russian propaganda. Now, when you've already blamed NATO, Poland, biolabs, pigeons, and the weather, what's left but the devil? They've run out of earthly enemies, so now they're going after metaphysical ones. Just don't be surprised if the next military briefing includes a holy water budget. Because in Russia's war narrative, exorcism now counts as strategy. Russian propagandists are back at it, and once again, they've chosen their favorite theatrical genre, mass exodus, the Ukrainian escape saga. Now this time, Kremlin media have claimed that 200,000 young Ukrainian men and, yes, even teenagers fled the country in just 2 days between September 6th and 7th. Because apparently that's just a normal Wednesday on a propaganda calendar. And to give this fantasy some visual flair, they slapped in a video of young guys boarding a train. Very dramatic, very urgent. Only problem, that footage is from July. And it's not a wartime escape, it's just a youth basketball team going to a tournament. Yeah, the Kremlin confused hoop dreams with draft dodging. That's what happened when you try to turn Instagram reels into intelligence briefings. The kicker? This video was posted on July 25th, weeks before Ukraine even allowed men aged 18 to 22 to travel abroad under new rules. Ukraine's State Border Service Unit shut it down immediately. On those September days, 49,000 people crossed the border, including women, children, and people returning. But hey, why let numbers get in the way of a good panic? At this rate, tomorrow's headline will be, all Ukrainian men, pets, houseplants have fled the country, confirmed by a security cam of a kindergarten field trip. So here we are again, a recycled lie, a borrowed video, and a fantasy narrative stitched together with zero logic. According to Kremlin math, Ukraine has run out of men at least 7 times this year. Yet somehow its army keeps fighting, almost like they never left. Funny how that works. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov has apparently graduated from diplomacy to historical fanfiction. At a recent event, he claimed that the Berlin Wall, yep, the one famously built by East Germany to keep its own people from escaping to the West, was actually built by the West. That's right, in Lavrov's alternate universe, NATO built a wall in the middle of Berlin to stop itself. Now this kind of reverse history gymnastic isn't new, but Lavrov still managed to impress. If we follow his logic, Chernobyl was a CIA operation, the Bolsheviks were Western-backed influencers, and Ivan the Terrible probably worked for MI6. Folks, it's improv night at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs.
Это очень хороший ответ тем, кто в последнее время, в том числе в нашем научном сообществе, стали говорить о том, что многополярный мир мы будем строить без Запада. Но мы живем на очень маленькой одной планете. И это в западном стиле было выстраивать берлинские стены, условные стены между собой и нашим огромным евразийским пространством, вот, которое было Советским Союзом, а теперь вот постсоветским пространством является. Мы никаких стен не хотим выстраивать. Не на тех напали, понимаете? И меня поражает, что выводы Запад никак не может сделать из многовековой истории в контексте своих многократных попыток Россию приструнить, подчинить, наказать.
And naturally, it didn't stop at just creative history. Lavrov also warned that the West still hasn't learned the lessons of trying to contain Russia, which in Kremlin speak usually just mean we're going to threaten everyone again and hope someone takes us seriously. The performance remains the same, only the props have changed. And if Lavrov really believes the West built the Berlin Wall, it raises a bigger question. Who does he think is shelling Ukraine's cities right now? The West again? Maybe NATO has secretly taken control of Russia's artillery too? In the Kremlin's version of events, everyone is to blame, except, the one pulling the trigger. And with that, we conclude this edition of Break the Fake. But for more news, update, and commentary, please stay tuned to TVP World.